feeling salesy. Sarah here, aka the Business Fixer. So on Sunday, I went to Snetterton Racetrack for a car event, and the atmosphere was amazing with engines roaring, tyres screeching, and the crowds buzzing. You know, there were some seriously interesting cars on display, from stripped back classics to heavily modified beasts. But what caught my attention wasn't the noise or the spectacle, it was the refinement. As much as I appreciated the power and energy of the racers, I realised something important. So for me, those of you who know me well, I'm a petrol head, but I'm a bit of a refined one. I love the supercars, the precision, the subtleness of modifications that enhance the performance without shouting about it. That balance between passion and polish, between power and restraint, is what makes a car truly exceptional. And driving home, it struck me that's exactly how great selling works. Okay, so let's try and actually reframe about selling. When people think of sales, they often picture the loud, pushy salesperson who won't take no for an answer, the one who closes deals rather than opens relationships. The old school stereotype is the equivalent of those souped up car revving just to be noticed, all noise and no nuance. But selling today isn't about pushing harder. It's about refining your approach. It's about learning how to sell without pressure, leading conversations that feel natural, collaborative, and helpful rather than manipulative. In fact, the most successful salespeople today don't even think of themselves as selling. They think of themselves as serving. Okay? When you see sales through the lens of service, everything changes. You're not trying to convince someone to buy something they don't need. You're guiding them towards a solution that genuinely helps them move forward. This shift removes the anxiety, guilt, and self-consciousness that so many business owners feel around selling. You stop worrying about sounding salesy because your intention is pure. It's to serve, not to pressure. But that's easier said than done. For many business owners, especially those who started their business to help people, selling often feels uncomfortable because they associate selling with pressure or manipulation. It's not that they dislike sales. We all want money and we all want the sales coming through. They dislike what sales has been made to represent. Once you reframe it as a service that discomfort fades because you're no longer trying to take, you're trying to give. Okay? Now, pressure selling might create a short-term win, but it actually destroys long-term trust. Okay? That's because pressure breaks the natural flow of conversation. It makes people defensive, and when someone feels cornered, their instinct generally isn't to buy, it's actually to retreat. Low pressure selling, on the other hand, gives people space to think. You create safety. And you know what? Safety builds trust. And trust is the real driver of conversions. Think about it. You know, if you think about those best client conversations, chances are they didn't really feel like sales calls at all. They felt like honest discussions about challenges, possibilities, and goals. You listened more than you spoke. You asked questions. You helped your client gain clarity even before they decided to work with you. That's what ethical sales techniques look like in practice. Imagine you're speaking to a potential client who says, I'm not sure if it's now's the right time. I can guarantee the instinct is to push back or even offer a discount. But instead, you say, that's completely fine. Can I ask, what's making you hesitate? Suddenly, the conversation opens up. You've shown respect for their decision while creating space for honesty. And that's often where the real buying decisions happen. But buyers today make decisions, I tell you, based on trust, transparency, and emotional connection. They're not buying a product or service, they're buying a belief in you. And if you think about it, so often There's this phrase that says people buy based on emotion and they back it up by logic. And that is true. So you need to actually build that emotional connection. So how do you refine your approach to be able to create that level of emotional connection? Well, the first is you lead with curiosity, not control. Your job isn't to steer someone towards a yes, it's to understand their world so deeply that a yes becomes the natural next step. Ask open, thoughtful questions that help them articulate what's really going on. The more that you ultimately listen, the more they trust you. The more they trust you, the more that they're going to buy from you. 2, be clear on your value and own it. When you're confident in the value you bring, you stop over explaining or apologizing for your prices. Confidence doesn't mean arrogance. It's quiet, grounded, and certain. The irony is that when you stop trying to sell, your conviction becomes your magnet. You don't need to push, people lean in. 3, use silence as your strongest tool. Sales pressure often creeps in when we rush to fill silence. We interpret a pause as a hesitation, so we talk ourselves into circles. But the truth is, silence gives people room to think, and that's where decisions happen. Let your prospects process. Don't chase the yes. 4, make it safe for them to say no. The more confident business owners make it easy for prospects to say no, that's exactly why more people will say yes. When people know that you're not desperate for the sale, they relax. They trust your honesty. They believe your recommendations. Ethical sales techniques aren't about convincing, they're about creating alignment. And if it's not right for them, it's not right for you either. That's integrity. 5, focus on the outcome, not the offer. This is something I see time and time again, where people are talking about constantly about the features, the benefits, etc. People don't buy coaching, consulting services. They buy change. They buy peace of mind, progress, clarity, freedom. When you focus on the outcome instead of the mechanics, your offer becomes a bridge rather than a pitch. Empathy and understanding the client's emotional journey are now key drivers of purchase decisions. In other words, the human connection is the close. Now, the Snetterton effect. Back to the racetrack for a moment. The cars that impressed me most weren't the ones trying to prove themselves. They were the ones that knew exactly what they were built for. Refined, precise, elegant under pressure. That's how your sales should feel. Not frantic or forced, but intentional and effortless. When you strip away the noise and focus on service, clarity, and purpose, you attract the right clients with ease. Selling without feeling salesy isn't about doing less. It's about doing it differently. It's about precision over performance, presence over persuasion. It's the difference between chasing the track and owning the road. The real power of selling without pressure is when you reframe sales as service, you stop selling and you start solving. You shift from trying to get the clients to trying to get clients to genuinely helping them. And that's where your business transforms. Clients feel seen, understood, and supported. They refer you without being asked. They stay longer, invest more deeply, and become advocates for your brand. And you rediscover the joy of selling because it no longer feels like selling. It feels like serving. So, if you are ready to refine your approach and learn how to sell without pressure, it starts with clarity, not a script. Let's uncover what's holding your sales back and build a framework that feels natural, confident, and effective. And if this is something that you would like support in, then all you need to do is comment the word performance and we can have a chat and see how I can help you with your sales process. Well, thank you guys for listening. Really do appreciate it. And I will see you